Since a number of students struggle with establishing their problem statement, I thought I would show you the process that I'm going to be going through probably very shortly with the new data I have on my topic of interest. Now, you recall that establishing a problem statement can be done in two ways. The easiest way is when you get a reference from a current article that says further research, typically at the bottom of an article, and they'll talk about somebody needs to do a qualitative study of this to explain why that, those kinds of things. So sometimes you'll find somebody that's recommending a specific approach or a specific group of participants or a setting, something that hasn't been explored, that's relevant to the topic that you're reading about, but needs to be looked at. So that's the easy way. So if you find that, well, okay, then you've got some pretty clear guidance. You have an expert, presumably recommending this approach. A lot of times you don't find that. And so you have to uncover it through your search. And so I thought I'd walk you through the process just to make sure that you understand how it works. And I'm going to provide a template, the same document I'm going to send out and attach somehow, that you can use and revise with your own topics and try it out. So my topic of interest is bullying. And my thinking was that there was very little research done on bullying in Christian schools. And when I started my doctoral study back in 2007, I wanted to focus on character education and developing character in kids, and it turned out it was too big. But bullying was becoming a hot topic, so around 2010 I switched over to bullying, and I did some research to see what had been done, and I found that there really wasn't any research out there, and so that became the gold mine. Well, now it's 10 years later since I got my degree, and I have another study that I want to research, so I've got to go back over the last 10 years to see what's happened. So I'm still thinking there's a gap in the knowledge regarding the setting and participants. Don't know that for sure, but I think so. I limited my search to scholarly and peer-reviewed full-text articles, so just to make this as easy as possible. If you don't find much, of course, you can expand that to magazines and other, newspaper articles and other things, as long as you're cautious in how you use them. But let's start there. The search engine is the one that's built into the Cornerstone library. They call it Summon. And to be honest, I'm not sure how broad it is, but I think it kind of encompasses everything. So I started with just searching for the word bullying in all fields, all years, no limitations at all. We've got 20,000 plus articles that meet that criteria there. So then I narrowed it down. Well, what about those that put bullying as a specific subject matter? And we lopped off about 5,000 there. And then to get a little bit more narrow, somebody who puts bullying in the title, that they're really focused in on that topic. And so that brings it down another 6,000. So we're getting there, but it's still too many articles to read. So I thought, well, what about somebody that puts bullying as a subject and the title? In this case, it didn't change that at all. You could have subject and keyword to see what would happen, but didn't make a lot of difference. So then I started narrowing by year. So it's been 10 years since I did my dissertation. And so what's happened in the area of bullying? Well, over 6,000 new articles have been written in the last 10 years, peer-reviewed, scholarly articles. So it's still a hot topic. Well, now I wanted to say, well, what's been done in the last 5 years to bring me a little bit more current? Well, about half as many as you might expect. So I didn't narrow it down anymore at that point. I thought, well, let's back up a little bit and look at my other area of interest. So you work through your variables. Okay, what are the if you're looking at leadership, well, leadership and what? Leadership and staff morale, or leadership and emotional intelligence, or whatever the topic is. And so you begin with one, and you begin to narrow it down, and then you start looking at another one. So I looked at Christian and school. So Christian school, you put it in as two separate words, both as the title in the last 10 years. Only 132 articles in peer-reviewed research on Christian schools. So it's already a pretty narrow field. And so looking at the subject heading, instead of the title, it did increase a little bit. So people are doing research in Christian schools. Maybe that wasn't the focus, so it didn't make it into the title. So about 384. But then I added in my other variable. So Christian and school and bullying in the last 10 years. Only 3 articles have ever been written, and one of those was mine in 2015 when we published the summary of my dissertation. That's my one article. So I would go back and I'm going to do some research on this. The study that I did added in another dimension, so school size. So my article would focus on bullying, it would focus on character education, it would focus on gender differences, it would focus on grade level differences, and any information about school size. And so those would be added search terms. So then I would go back and I would start again, create another search term for articles on school size. And then I might narrow it by articles on school size in private schools and, student-teacher ratio and other variables to try to understand why that might or might not have an impact on my topic. So you can use this sort of thing, put your own terms in, and you just work through trying different things, titles, subjects, keywords, abstracts are another good search tool. But you narrow it down, and then when you get too narrow, you can broaden it out again. So the last 10 years, I don't need to go any broader than that. I want to know within those 10 years. But I can look at bullying and private schools. That might be my next search. And bullying and school size, and on it goes. So I've created this template. You can fill it up and add to it if you want, but it gives you an idea of how you would approach this if you're struggling to narrow down where the gap is. And when you get down to something like this, then you know that nobody's really looked at this topic before. I've got something that's important and nobody's uncovered this. So there's my gap. Okay, I hope you find that helpful.